all the
Nice.
stuff.
I love your stuff, man. You know I do. It's a great book.
Oh, thank you.
Next up, Jeffrey Barant. Jeffrey, welcome to the show. We met briefly at the comic convention. Tell the viewers who you are, sir.
Hi, I'm a writer, mostly of comic books. My most recent work was Ghost Planet from Scout Comics, and I have a graphic novel called Odd Schnoz and the Odd Squad out from Oni Press.
Perfect. Thanks so much for coming, Jeff. I can't wait to talk to
you.
you. Hey, it wouldn't be a panel without my pal, JD Calderon. I know who you are, JD, but tell the viewers.
I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles, Tall Tales Online, Magi's Grace, Dreamweavers, and a few other things that are eventually going to come out. Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Hey, and thanks, man, for jumping in at the last minute.
And let me tell you something. The good half of Magi's Grace is here too.
See Michael Lanning.
yeah. I did that.
Hey, we got some killer creators on this panel. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We got some photos to take a look at, so let's dive right into the evidence. I'm actually going to start with this guy, I think, to keep it in order. This is what they call the DeFeo photo. Most people would know this from a famous book, and there was a couple of movies called The Amityville Horror. What the photo seems to show is the ghost of a 9-year-old boy. It's kind of a demonic setting, but what I want to know, is it real? See, Michael Lanning, what can you tell us?
You know, the thing about this is they try to debunk this, saying that it's one of the camera crewmen or whatever the case is, and that if you look, he's got glasses on. But I was looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, if you have glasses on and there is a flash and there's a reflection, it really, those eyes sure are glowing really well. Usually they're in a very good position to be that. So I never really bought into that. I'm going to lean towards real until you can prove me something other than that, in all honesty. Whatever
I tell you,
it is,
this one certainly is creepy enough. It's probably the creepiest of the ones we're going to see tonight, and the most disturbing backstory already. A bunch of murders. Aaron, what do you think of this one?
He definitely looks young enough to be 9. I mean, if you just look at the shape of the skull, I mean, if you're saying that's a camera guy, that's a very young camera guy. And I can see what they mean by the flashes on the glasses, but God, unless you get down and really look pixel by pixel, you can't see the wireframe of the glasses if they're there. I don't know. It's good. I mean, I would say yes. It is interesting that he extends down below. Like, does he have a striped shirt on or something behind? So I'd like to see more detail. You know, maybe some kid looking for the bathroom. You know, I don't know, something.
Out of all the ones we're going to see tonight, too, this one does not look to me like an overexposure or anything like that.
No, it's pretty clear.
Jeffrey Brandt, what do you make of this one? Do you think it's real? It's a hoax? What can you tell us?
Well, I think it's a picture of a child, and I'm used to seeing photos throughout my life where your eyes glow because the flash hits against the back of your retina or what have you. As far as the timeline goes, I don't know how to trust. I always thought of the Amityville character couple that I don't know, have been brought to screen now as hucksters. So I'm the skeptic in this group. I don't believe in ghosts, so I don't think any of these are really ghosts. As far as like I don't think that is a picture of a ghost kid. Whether the picture was developed after a child died or what have you, then it could be a mash. You know, it could be a double exposure or something like that. But I think there's always. I also don't understand, which I'm going to say for everyone, is like why a camera lens would somehow capture the light of an apparition that your eyes wouldn't, or why, you know, the chemicals in a photograph would somehow print. I mean, that's just not the way cameras work. I don't know. So
that's a great point.
I think it's a picture of a kid. I don't buy this like that is somehow a crew member, but I also don't. I'm not going to think any of these are ghosts.
Well, you have a great point, Jeff, and what you've zeroed in on. This one is probably the most problematic because it was the beginning evidence is very sketchy. Of course, the child had already died, blah, 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 and they claim that no one is there. But were they trying to make money? In this case, they were, which immediately makes me a little bit more skeptical. Let's move it over to JD. JD, is this a ghost or not?
It looks like a picture of a kid, and no, I don't think it's a ghost. And the other question I would have is, okay, so this is supposed to be the picture of a child who passed away.
Correct. Murdered.
Right. Now, do we have a picture of the child who passed away to compare him to this picture? Do they even look alike?
Supposedly, yes.
I have
yes.
seen the picture. I just saw the picture last night, and yeah, there's a lot of similarities to it.
Okay, but they are kids though. So I mean, I don't know. It looks, yeah. I have to agree with Jeffrey. It looks
Okay. And I think out of all of them, I think I can agree with you guys. This image it's the spookiest, right? Because of the glowing eyes. And of course, the affiliation with the Amityville horror sort of leads us toward believing in it. But bearing in mind that it was a profitable book, you could see where it might have benefited their marketing. So I'm going to say that I'm skeptical of that one. We're going to move over to our number 2. This is what they call the Goddard Squadron photo. This one's a little bit more difficult to pin down, and I'm going to mention why. This photo was allegedly taken in 1919, right? Which is sort of well before people were doing photographic hoaxes. And what it allegedly depicts is this airman who had walked into a propeller a few days before, and all the squadron claimed that he was not in the shot when the photo was taken. They developed the photo. He's in the shot. See, Michael Lanning, what do you make of it?
Now this one, I don't know. This one, I feel like that could be this could be the overexposure kind of thing we're talking about, because they look kind of similar. The faces, they seem to kind of have the same nose on the side there. I mean, yeah, you have a little bit more of the eye showing, but
Can I
this
ask
one
you a
I'm not too
question?
sure about.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Is it supposed to be the guy that's peeking out from behind him?
What you're
Yeah.
seeing here, yeah, the circle is the image of the guy in the back row, and allegedly he was not in the back row when it was taken.
The
And
man
the others,
with the hat on is the ghost, not the person kind of like peeking from behind him.
correct.
Okay.
Oh, wait. You know what? You have a point. Now that you mention that,
I think it's supposed to be the
I
guy
figured-
peeking behind him.
I think
Yeah,
it's
That's
supposed
what
to
I
be the
think.
guy peeking behind him. I hadn't
Yeah.
even taken that into consideration. Does that change your opinion, C, or are you going to stick with overexposure?
No,
here?
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was one behind him. That's why I'm thinking exposure, just because they line up with the same facial features. But I mean, at that point in time, everybody looked alike anyway. So
They all
well,
look
but also
alike.
the other fella doesn't have a hat on.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is true. This is true.
Aaron, what do you have to say about this one?
Well, one, obviously, see Michael's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, but the thing that's weird about the behind the face is it's going to more of a 3/4 view. The face in front, if it is an overexposure, you are getting close to a different angle of the face behind. That wouldn't be possible. It would be a mimic of the face, because you're getting more of the side of his nose. And even though it looks the same, it looks like he's literally, because you see in the edge of his brow up here, that down, and the hat. So that's why I don't think double exposure, because it's literally not mimic. I mean, the shadows on his eyes and stuff are not identical. They would be like identical. I'm gonna say there's something there. It could be an exposure thing. Again, a lot of photography back then, if it's a double exposure, it's a mistake. I think they were still learning how to do that. I don't, when this is World War, this is 1 or 2? I would assume 1.
World War
What
One,
year is it?
Yeah, that was it.
1919.
1990. Okay, that's World War 1. Yeah. So, I'm gonna say I think that's real, or that's something, because the only other reason is, are there any other effects of overexposure on any other part of the photo? And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're looking at this whole photo and it
The
just
rest
happens
of
to be
them are-
overexposed, and
the
that
rest of
one
them are
face up
pretty
in that one
clean.
corner,
Yeah.
that's a very specific overexposure. You would see artifacts of overexposure on little bits all over the place, because the whole image would shift,
Overexposure. Okay, great point.
and the whole image would shift. So it's not shifting.
That's actually a
So-
pretty good point, and I'm not even sure if, and this is, I don't know, somebody with more knowledge maybe can answer this, but in 1919, did they even know how to do that yet? Let's move this one over to Jeff, because he was the one that noticed that it's actually the figure behind. Jeff, what do you make of it? Do you think this one's a hoax? How do they do it?
Well, I just don't. I mean, there could literally just be a guy behind him that wasn't supposed to be in the picture. It could have been an assistant, and they caught him. and they're wrong. It's not their friend that died. This is pretty low res photography. It's everyone is eyes are shadows, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and so it could just be wishful thinking. 106 years ago or whatever it is, and that and we also don't know like the direct report of like who thought it was, how many people thought it
Supposedly, the
was.
airmen claimed they seem to be pretty unanimous in claiming that they thought it was him.
Right. Well, I don't, like I said, I'm not going to believe it's a ghost. So I think it's easy to come up with other explanations, mostly which is like the photographer's assistant didn't get out of the way in time, or or something like that. That there's really a man standing behind him that got caught in the picture. Or I mean, you see other people kind of stacked up behind. And he could just be blurry and have a black hat, and like I said, they wanted it to be that guy, and that idea.
They were in grief, right? They had just lost their buddy. They were predisposed to think that.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
That makes sense. One of the main side effects of grief is that you feel that you have seen the image of the lost person. So there could be a psychological aspect to this one, right?
Yeah, because his face is very obscure too. You're seeing half of it, so your brain gets to put together what the rest of his face looks like. Someone else was talking about that 3/4 view, so it's not head on. I mean, it does sort of look like the guy in front of him too. So I don't know. There's a lot of room for skepticism, I think.
And also, it's what do they call Occam's razor, right? Usually, the simplest explanation is the truth.
Right.
Sure.
Move it over to JD. JD, what do you think? Is this one real or is it a hoax?
Well, I mean, I've taken some photography courses and I've developed film. Now, I don't know if this was done on what is that tin type, or is the tin plate, or was it actual film? But I know with film, you get a speck of light on it an original, before it gets exposed to a full picture. You can actually develop something that was there, right? So, the photographer could have exposed just a speck, and that could have just been some random guy's head, and then he took this other picture and that's the rest of it, right? Because these things, I know when we did it came in boxes, and you would open up the box and the teachers were like, oh, be careful, you open up the box, and there you go.
This is potentially history's first photo bomb.
Right.
Well, I think go ahead.
So yeah, I just think it's a guy. So
okay. We had some pretty good points in this round. I think Jeff had it kind of nailed down that it could have been any myriad of earthly explanations, but also Aaron kind of had a point too, right? If it was just that one, why not the others? And it is not impossible, but it is difficult to discount the opinions of so many people. But I do believe deeply that grief can tend to make people see things, quite frankly. So perhaps a combination of both. Perhaps an overexposed photo combined with the grief of the airman.
Or maybe this is in development. Maybe there were two photos. Maybe this is a guy without his hat on at first, and then there's this one. Maybe they got confused. Maybe it's got mixed up somewhere. Maybe it's something that's faded into another photo. That kind of thing.
Okay.
If it is a ghost, it could be. I mean, it could be some sort of form of a Doppler effect that the combined grief of these people. If they're taking a photo missing him, that they could have conjured some sort of psychic impression of him or something.
Okay, hold on. Give us a little bit more. I love the psychic impression theories.
That's
Expand on that.
Yeah.
have you ever heard of Doppler effects?
I know the psychic ether theory, but I want to hear yours.
Right. So the idea of like they would have with these people would go in this room and they would focus on making a face appear on a wall. And they would just like go back and forth, and they would sit there like all day meditating, focusing to make this face appear on the wall. And they said they kept doing this over a few days or weeks or something. Eventually, people could actually see a face on the wall.
Oh, okay. Now, so what are you telling us? So let me just make sure I got this. So you're saying that through the force of some kind of applied psychology, they are making somebody witness the actual image?
I mean, yeah. I mean, in other words, I mean, can you conjure something or out of grief or whatever? Make something real sort of on the film. I don't know. Now, would he really be an actual entity, or is it something like an image of him they conjured into the picture?
Yes, some
We
visioning.
we I mean, we don't know. How you could do that,
Interesting.
but there
Yeah.
is. I mean, this is goes into the idea of UFOs, and I mean that enough people believe in UFOs that we make them real. In other words, can our mind actually affect reality? That sort of thing.
Dash Hooper buying the manifesting an image theory. Definitely a
I don't know.
fascinating
It seems
theory.
like Occam's razor would be more lean more towards a ghost or an alien being real than it would be being able to manifest something like that.
Okay, but okay,
Because-
tell
I
us
mean,
why
it
you say that.
could, but I mean,
Hold on, I
when
want him to finish that. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because I mean, you're talking about everybody picturing a face. Did they have a face in mind?
Yeah, they all had the
Was
same
there a
face
picture
in
taken
mind.
around? Okay, was
Yeah,
it?
it was a purposeful face they were trying to
What
make.
did the wall look like? You know what I'm saying?
Apparently, it was just
Like-
it was just a blank wall, and people could eventually see like a sort of. And then once they quit focusing on it, it faded away.
Interesting.
But it wasn't seen through a photograph. It was that people could actually come in and see a faint image of it. I mean,
I would like to see
people
somebody.
think the reason why I sometimes wonder if this is a possibility is if you go down to the even a science idea of the quantum physics level, you have particles that blink in and out of existence. We don't know how that's possible, but that happens.
Right.
So if you have particles blinking in and out of existence, and we're literally made of particles down to the quantum level,
That's great. I love it.
there could be the argumentative theory that yes, something could just blink in and out of existence, just like a
And I think
subatomic
you just
particle.
answered Jeff's question. Jeff's you just gave an answer to Jeff's doubt about the camera right there.
Yeah.
Why can the camera catch something that the human eye doesn't? Because it's only there for a split second.
Yeah.
But
I think also.
I hear what you're saying, but I would rather see somebody come in outside of the group, like a variable that sees the face outside of that. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying, to me, it seems more logical that there's a pent up energy, or there's extraterrestrials.
Sure.
Than
JD, you have something you want to add?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
JD, you got the final word here.
Yeah, I think that mushrooms are a real thing.
Okay, that's the final word.
The thing, well, hold on. The thing is with the image being on the glass,
right?
We know that there is a phenomenon where a person stares through a window long enough in the sunlight, and their face will impress on that glass. So I don't think that doesn't hold a lot of water for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll look at the TVs. I mean, you what was the old TV, certain image, and I don't know if this applies to cameras. This is plasma TVs. But you pause a game, you pause a movie, pretty soon the image is burnt on the thing. But that's a long time to do it. So
the brain quite stupid and easily tricked by patterns and objects and lines on paper. He's right. Yeah. Again, that kind of points back to Jeff's theory that the simplest explanation, the brain trying to fill in the information.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I think Occam's razor would rule out ghosts in the first place.
Possibly.
It would,
ghost,
but I mean,
maybe ghost in the sense of an afterlife type of ghost, but not necessarily a residual energy ghost.
No.
Yeah, I believe that's a possibility. Let's move it up to 1987. This is the Sayers Ghost pilot. Mrs. Sayers on vacation with her friend. Hey, it'd be fun for me to sit in the pocket of this helicopter and take a fun photo of me. They take it home. There's apparently a figure sitting in the cockpit next to her. Multiple witnesses. They say there was 7 to 10 witnesses there. There was nobody in the cockpit at that time. If it is an overexposure, it does seem kind of specific to me that he seems to be directly seated. I'm not sure what to make of it. I don't know. See, Michael Lanning, what do you make of it?
In all honesty, I feel like it's a reflection of somebody taking the picture. Simply because, yeah, I kind of see the person there, but it's very blurry. It looks like a very sunny day. Looks like somebody could have been, standing on the outside over here. In that sense. This one, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about.
Yeah, potentially a reflection, or the clouds, or just happens to be in the shape of
around that lines. Yeah, depends on how many people are around that day. Or somebody was walking by and stopped at that exact moment, that kind of thing. I'm not too sure.
Oh, good point, Chris Hall. The simplest
That is true.
explanation is usually
Yeah,
the
that's
correct
it. That's not always.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah, that's
point.
not always good.
So, Aaron, let's move this one over to you. So the Sayers photo, is it real? Is it a reflection? What do you make of it?
It's interesting that he looks like he has his hand in front of him, like his right hand is coming up over his chest. I think like his fingers are spread. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. I do find it
See, that's
interesting
right.
that the white of his shirt is bleeding down into the rim or the rim of the glass, like right
Mhm.
above her hand.
Right.
Which you can almost argue if it is reflecting sunlight that, but I mean, it's very specific reflection. I mean, he has a V-neck on. I mean, you're looking
If it's a cloud, the
the
cloud's wearing a V-neck.
right. I mean, it could be that, you know, I would say there could be something there that could be more of the trick of the light putting it together. I'm not sure because you get from the neck of V-neck, like okay, that's a head, but you get further down, like then his shirt bleeds into the outer part of the plane, and then that looks like a weird hand, and then like I don't know what's going on there. So yeah.
This one's kind of sketchy to me. Could be a reflection. Let's hear from Jeffrey on this one. Jeffrey, is it a reflection? What do you make of this
Well,
one?
I think this is the first of a series of, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but of what pareidolia. Yeah, where we evolve to see faces and things and the darkness in the wilderness because it's better to run when you see a face than to be wrong than to be think there's not a face in the trees and then you get eaten by a panther or whatever. So I just think this is, it looks like a shape of a man because of reflections, because of dirty window, who knows. I was going to bring up, I was glad y'all pointed out how the what looks like a white shirt is just keeps going to the edge of the plane and then doesn't continue either. It's not like hovering there. In fact, it just adds to the idea of like, oh, it kind of looks like chest and shoulders. And it happens to kind of look like a collared t-shirt, but that doesn't really look like a collar to me when upon closer examination. It's like there's a general, it's a very impressionistic thing of a person, and therefore I think it is just a confluence of shadows, reflections. We don't know what was sitting in that chair for real. Like, if there was a hat hanging there, or who knows, something to give it form. I mean, it looks so like that window is so dirty over the hair.
Reflection of free. Wouldn't that be posing?
I don't think it's a reflection of a person. I think it just happens to look like a man kind of.
Well, and I think it was Aaron mentioned too that if it's it's a reflection of the light, and if it was something inside the cockpit, you will notice that the reflection does seem to be on the lower right hand corner of the not necessarily in the glass. So that kind of suggests that it would be a reflection of light, right?
Like if it's a man sitting there, like she's sitting there, you would see his like elbow kind of, you would see more of him. I think. I don't think it's not something that's occupying three-dimensional space as represented in a two-dimensional picture. I don't think.
That's a good point, Jeff. That's a good point. Let's move it over to JD. JD, so far the consensus seems to be this one's a fake. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's a reflection because the thing is you can see the frame of the vehicle right there, right next to it. And you see a reflection and it melds right into that thing. So, if it's on the frame and it goes right into that, it's probably a reflection. Not necessarily a person, but of something that's giving us the impression of a person. Because I don't think, maybe like Jeff was saying, it could just be the screen is really dirty. And these are the images our brain is putting together for us. But I see a reflection on the frame of the vehicle. So it's like, okay, it's not like if it was an actual ghost, it's not going to show through the frame of the vehicle, right? We're looking about seeing it through glass.
Well, who knows what the rules are, but yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
I think what gets me is more than just the white coming down, because let's say that's just the sun lining up with the ghost, right? But what gets me is what you would think is the crevice of where the armpit is. it seems to be that split, that absence of light right there, like just a tad bit that would tell me that that's on the outside versus on the inside. However, you could counter that with the windshield wipers right there.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more. See, what do you mean by that?
Well, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I take that back. I'm thinking.
I think this one is closer to what Jeff said in the sense that, you know, and actually Chris mentioned it in the comments, that it's your brain filling in what it wants to be a anthropomorphic figure. I'm sorry, I don't know the word right now, but it's trying to fill in the gaps of what we don't see. And I think that the white in the lower right-hand corner kind of enforces that theory that it could be a trick of the light.
Yeah.
Anybody want the final word on that one?
Seems like his hair could be, you can see how the cockpit has like these swaths of black that I can't tell what those are. It could just be another, like, whatever paint.
Seatbelt buckle.
Yeah, however they have it in there. I don't know.
People need to take better pictures of what they need to do.
A glass reflection would need to be on a dark or silver background. Yeah, he's got a point. Looks like we have some agreement on this one.
I wouldn't agree that windshield is clear. It is so dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is a texture on the photograph, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's.
Well, it seems like we have a consensus. Let's move on to our number 4. Yeah. This is what they call the tulip staircase ghost. And the reason why I like this one, see, you know what I'm going to say right here, right? First, let's talk a little bit about, you know, I'll give my quick opinion. It looks a little bit like an overexposure to me. But the thing that is weird about this one is the fellow who took the photo, right? Reverend Ralph Hardy, a clergyman. So before we launch into the whys and wherefores, see, Michael Lanning, what's your take? Is it real or is it a fake?
Well, whether it's a ghost or not, it's hard to say. Although it is the fact that you kind of clearly see hands, and I think what really sells it here for me is the wrinkles in the clothing, right around the arm on that bottom part. You see the folds,
right?
It looks like a heavy cloth. Like, where do you say this was? Where was this again?
British Columbia.
Yeah, but the location was a tulip.
It's the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, England. Taken in 1966. I mean, again, photographic effects, if they were intentionally faking it, it's kind of unusual for 66.
I'm just curious because it looks like it's a heavy cloth, the way it folds.
Right.
So it makes me think that, like, if you told me this was in a church, I would believe it. Or if this was a church at one point in time, because, you know, as far as a monk or whatever is concerned, that's what sells it to me, that that's actually something there, and it's not just a trick of the light. What it is exactly, I don't know, but I can't understand what a reverend would get out of claiming that this is, you know, a ghost or anything of that nature.
Right. What an odd choice, right? In other words, he presented this in a way that potentially contradicts his own belief system. That's the part that sticks with me. Let's move it over to Aaron. Aaron, what do you make of it? Real? It's a hoax? What's your 2 cents?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I noticed, like, if you look at his, and I brought this up to Timothy before, is you look at his right hand, the thumb is on the wrong side. That would actually be his left hand. Right. So there's 2 left hands there.
Great point. That's why I love having artists on the show.
There would actually have to be a person in front of him holding the railing on top. That would be his left hand. So there'd have to be 2 pictures because the thumb is on the wrong side. That's what I find a little strange. Now, the hand just kind of comes out. It looks like it's extended from, but that's the thing that's like, I feel if it is an image, there's 2 people there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So
interesting.
So yeah, because that stood out to me as far as a cloaked figure. I mean, yeah, I mean it's pretty. You know, it looks like an actual cloth, like a monk, a robe of some sort.
Yeah, the
but
shadows
again,
line up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd almost just say it's a picture of an actual guy. But my question is, do the stairs spiral down? In other words, is he actually on the stairs or is he outside the railing?
It looks to me like he's on the wrong side of the railing.
So would there be any stairs there? Or is the stairs like this? It was still on the stairs, are they spiraling downwards?
Like,
Like,
is
is
that
it like
the
is it
bottom?
turning?
The
Yeah.
stairs
Yeah.
spiral downwards, but you can kind of see that the railing is in front of him.
Right, and this railing is not starting to bend. If he was on the stairs there, the stairs would have more of, I would assume, towards the bottom, toward the lower right, have more of a bend. You'd start to see him curving more, because I mean, if you're thinking of the curvature of the stairs would actually go down further, bottom to the right, and almost turn about an inch or so out of the screen. You see what I'm saying? They'd have to really bend that around. So he's actually outside the stairwell. Like maybe he's jumping off the stairs to a lower landing. That's only like maybe a few foot below. Maybe at the bottom of the stairs or something.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see the actual stairs themselves and see how curved they are.
Weird looking stairs.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
whack.
Look at the
They look
stairs.
like
There's some
something out of
weird
Yellow
looking stairs.
Submarine.
If you told me this, yeah, right.
Yeah,
If you told me this was a photograph, I don't know if I believe you. That's the thing. It almost looks like a painting.
It's a little
Well,
surrealistic.
if you even look at the bottom stairs, you see how some of the stairs are rounded, then flat, then rounded,
Yeah.
then flat.
Yeah.
What kind of stairs are those?
They
I
look
want to
like
see these
cushions.
stairs like in a better
Yeah.
picture. Yeah.
So yeah, like I'd like to see more of what the stairs actually, like what's on the other side of that railing. Is he literally in midair, or are we literally at the bottom of the floor and it's just floor on the other side of the stairs? I mean, they're at the
Interesting.
bottom of the stairs. I mean, we don't know. And if they are at the floor, then it could just be some guy behind the stairs reaching his left hand up to make two left hands. But then again, that questions, is the other guy's right hand on somebody's shoulder? So the two people, because the right hand reaching up on somebody's shoulder, and then the other guy has his another left hand. I mean, they could be climbing the stairs, like two people climbing the stairs, both are holding the railing with their left hand. But then that would make me feel like, so I know this is going to sound bizarre. So are the stairs we've seen the indention of the stairs? Because if you look at like where the white part, where the sort of where the railing comes down and touches the stairs, yeah. So are we looking underneath?
That's
the stairs?
underneath. That's the underneath of the stairs.
Yeah, this is.
Right.
It looks to me like this shot, and look, I haven't been there, so viewers, correct me if I'm
Yeah.
getting this wrong. But it looks like it's a cylinder that you can stand at the bottom of and take the photo up.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
That's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Let's hear from Jeff on
they
this, because we didn't
spiral-
hear
Well,
his.
can we go
Yeah.
back? Because now it makes more sense. Because at first it really messes with your eye because the spires or whatever pointing down. It doesn't make sense. The things behind them look more like stairs than the supposed stairs. But if we're underneath it, looking up, like
It
you
looks
saw
weird,
some of
yeah.
the- like they're coming at us. And it's weird because I mean this image is really cool and evocative.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you pulled it up. I was
Yeah.
about to say these are some weird freaking stairs anyway.
Yeah.
But what's on the right look like real stairs, whereas underneath it's that relief and round.
It's that relief. You're seeing, okay, so now, this is a weird trick of the eye. Okay, now I see what it's doing. And I don't know if you can see, if you look at the bottom of the stairs, it looks like the light's hitting from the top. But if you trick your eye enough, oh God, I can't even see it. It's basically the light is coming down from the top left corner. It's coming down, and it's hitting those like little bottom parts, and so the black parts are like the black parts of those stairs. You're seeing the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah, and
the
look
light source is coming from behind it, though.
Yeah,
the light
I
source.
think
If you
that's
look,
above,
if you
though.
look at that picture, if you look at that picture again, that's actually some candles or something right there.
yeah.
I think
You can't see it in that black and white. So
That's a
that
complete
right there,
trick.
Yeah, those are like a candle, like a scout's type of thing there. Like
Yeah.
some lamps.
you
on
can
the
also
wall.
There are
see-
some pictures on there that's a little more red. They're kind of like they're like I don't
Well,
want
and
to say
it looks
hurricane
like
lamps.
there's also
Like-
some type of ironwork that has some type of adornment on it. I don't think we heard
Yeah.
fully from Jeff, though. Let's give Jeff the plaque.
Well, I
So,
was
yeah.
saying, once your eyes focus on how those little arrows at the end are fastened into the side of
Right.
the stairs, when you go back, it really helps you figure out some of the spatial location. Because on the other picture, they look like they're somehow hovering and not connected to anything, but it looks
Right.
like they're fused against the side of the stair,
Yeah.
right?
That's what
And so
it's
now
you
you
guys.
can see how the stair is it's a it's an optical illusion.
Yeah.
Now I can see, instead of the spires hanging, they are fused into the side there.
And they're
then,
basically climbing. So they're on the stairs. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just like trying to
Yeah.
figure. That's weird to look at.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so, everything's so blurry and weird. Like, I'm not 100% convinced even that left hand is a hand. I mean, it looks
Yeah.
kind of like a hand, but
Yeah.
a pretty deformed one. Like, I'm not convinced that it's
Look, if you were a ghost, why would you use the other side of the
it's
stairs?
something moving in the and the it's not captured in a moment, but it's
It could literally, the guy's right hand could just be touching the wall. He's holding the wall and holding the left railing with his left hand, and there's somebody literally in front of him holding. So those two people going up the stairs.
yeah.
That's what I take it as now.
Well, let's hear. We didn't hear from JD on this one. JD, what's your 2 cents on this image? Is this what is it?
I just think it's a very bad picture, overexposed, and that okay. So it looks like two people going up the flight of steps.
Yeah.
And the one in the back, anybody see Scary Movie 2? The guy stuffing the turkey, that might have that type of hand,
Yeah, you never know.
We'll tell you what. Let's. We got some great answers on this, and thank you for sharing them. But before we move on to the next one, see, Michael Lanning and I do this on the UFO show, right? Which one of the answers that I always want to know is why. The part that sticks out to me in this one, guy was a clergyman. Why? If it was a hoax, why did he do it? Why didn't he keep it a secret? This, if anything, would have damaged his reputation. We each got about 2 minutes for each answer. See, Michael Lanning, you first. Why?
Yeah, unless there's something, maybe he wasn't making enough money as a clergyman. Maybe he thought he could sell this. I don't know. But to me, it seems as though that would really hinder his, his credibility, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and in a career sense. So I think he saw what he saw. I think the picture is real. What it actually is? That's a good question.
What year is this one from?
1966. Let's move it over to Aaron. Aaron, you got 2 minutes. Why would a clergyman do this?
One, and I don't know the entire history, what statements he released in the photo, but it could have been also he didn't think it was a ghost when the photo was released, and other people interpreting the photo thought it was a ghost. Like, did he literally release the photo like, look, I took a photo of ghosts? He may have not have. He may have just released the photo. Please believe in the Holy Ghost, why not normal ghost? Yeah.
It's kind of got a
But
point.
he could have, either that or he thought it was a saint or an angel or maybe some sort of holy symbol. But I think he just released the image and didn't think of it as a ghost, and other people interpreted it as that. And so, yeah.
Good point. Jeffrey, it's up to you, buddy. Why would a clergyman potentially do this?
Well, I think he also could have believed it. Maybe he thought he had some of it. Just because it's not real doesn't mean it's a hoax per se either. In the idea that he's trying to pull something over on everyone, he could both. It could be both fake and he could believe it, right?
Yeah, good point. Okay, I buy that one. JD, let's move over to you. You can have the last word on this one. Why would a clergyman potentially release a ghost photo?
I think probably too much time in the what is that, in the imbibing the
wine.
The
communion.
Just a little bit too much of that. Like I said, he could have believed. They could, who knows what was going on? Why he said it or whatever. I mean, I don't know what was said, but people see stuff, and sometimes there's opportunities to make a buck, and they're like, all right, let's jump on it. Right. So we don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. Great answers on that. And thank you for sharing your perspective. Got another one to show you here. And I don't know what to make of this one. This is from 1997. It's sometimes called the grandpa's ghost photo. Supposedly, again, and I'm going to circle back around to something that Jeffrey said earlier, which is that our minds tend to fill in the gaps of what we don't see. And also Chris said it in the comments. Yeah, I tell you, Jeffrey's got some solid points tonight. I think that, sometimes the voice of reason is the best one in a group like this. But I will say that this one does look like a human shape and face. See, Michael Lanning, what do you make of Grandpa's ghost?
It looks like a person to me.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Whether
Same
it's a
thing.
ghost, I don't know.
He had passed away allegedly. Again, allegedly, he had passed away 7 years ago. The witnesses claim there was nobody there, and it wasn't until they developed the photo, and it wasn't like they didn't recognize him. They all said, "There's Grandpa." Is it real, C. Michael Lanning, or is it fake?
This one I don't know. That's a pretty clear picture.
It doesn't look like
at least with
exposure.
at least with the Amityville one, it was taken at night. So that one, whatever the case, but this one, I don't know. Yeah, it's a person there standing there. Now, what's interesting about it is, you'd have to be a pretty skinny person, huh? I mean, you don't see any outside the top of the top of her head. You don't see anything off to the side, do you?
Correct.
All I see is her hair, which is, I guess, is possible. But I'm thinking you might would have seen a hand or something right there, at least blending in with on the what was that? The left side of her head. Proportionally speaking, I mean,
yeah, it would seem if it was. And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. What I want to hear is your opinions. But if it was a person, you'd probably see something of the lower half. Possibly. I mean, possibly. We don't know. Let's move it over to Aaron. Aaron, what about Grandpa's ghost? What do you make of it?
Well, strange enough, I know this sounds weird. I'm looking at the chairs in the background.
Yeah.
So if the chairs are from the side, I'm wondering, this obviously she's at a place where certain chairs are set up, probably a family reunion or some case. Would it just possibly somebody who gotten up from a chair and was walking by and happened to look over at the time, somebody else in the family? In other words, was this just a random snapshot, or is this a posed picture? Because they could have just snapshot it and somebody just happened to be walking by and looked over because there was a camera, caught his eye, and just perfect image. The reason too you may not see the lower half of him is because he could be twisting his waist behind her, and his waist could be more,
he could be like turning toward the camera,
walking like he's literally walking across, and he's just turned his shoulder a little bit. This one, I would say, if you do say it's a trick of the eye, the other question I would have, then if that is a trick of the eye, then actually what other kind of object could that be? Actually there's some sort of physical mass there.
Yeah.
So if it is a trick of the eye, then to me, that's why sometimes I understand the trick of the eye. I don't always believe it, because I'm like, well, then if it's not a person, then what other mass is it? Does it happen to be a light post that look like a dude? Like, that's what starts to get into like, okay, that's kind of ridiculous to me. Is it her dead husband? I mean,
the relatives in the article said it looks just like him, but I want to hear from our resident skeptic. I want to hear from Jeffrey on this.
I'm going to change my name to Scully.
Jeffrey, what do you make of this? Is Grandpa's ghost a hoax?
I don't know. Maybe he's a Slimer. That's why he doesn't have legs.
Yeah.
I mean, it does look like a human, right? It does look very pixelated, like it looks like Max Headroom more than like. So again, kind of like the airman picture, it could be wishful thinking that because you could see, I think a lot of specific people could look like that general, almost 8-bit version of a human. So it could be someone walking by and looking. It could be, I don't know, I know when we used to all have disposable cameras in the 90s, you would accidentally get pictures back that were multiple pictures combined.
Yep. Right.
So, I don't know what type of photography this was, but it doesn't look very like professional, or, I mean, it looks blurry and cheap, sort of. Like, it doesn't seem like someone's using like a great lens and developing it themselves and stuff. So I don't know. I guess, my point is always, just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean it's a ghost or whatever. That's like, that's.
I think your last point was pretty solid, Jeffrey. I remember those old cameras, and there was a number of times that what it would do is sometimes print 2 images onto one photo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So maybe they took a picture of Grandpa 7 years ago and then whipped out the same roll of film again.
And it had deteriorated somehow onto the film and gave the. By the way, Dash Hooper, you're right. I did notice it looks like a mannequin. The other thing I would suggest is if you look at the cars in the background, they're kind of blurry. Also, the figures kind of blurry. They almost are the correct level of blurriness in relationship to each other. But I want to hear what JD says. JD, is Grandpa's ghost a fake?
I think somebody's having a laugh. I think that's a toy. It looks like like I said, a mannequin, but it looks like a toy to me. It looks, I expect someone, if this thing was moving, I'd expect the little arms to start like flailing around, like someone like a puppeteer, because it's very, very angular, and that's what it reminds me of. Reminds me of a toy.
It's the Slender Man in the early days.
Yeah.
Before he got his black suit and grew
Before he got his suit, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I think we had some great points in that round. I think that
I will say.
Go ahead.
Well, I will say at this point, it's there. Whatever it is, it's there. This is not something that was photoshopped in, unless it was very well done, because the light sources line up exactly.
Right.
Because if you look at her and you look at him, it's the same thing. As far as the angular is concerned, and I bet you Aaron would know what I'm talking about. When you look at photos or whatever of really saturated light, you do get that angular look on a face, especially if it is a thin face like that. So
yeah, because it's actually accentuating more of the dark shadows and blurring out the lighter areas, so you do get more of an angular look. I think it's just somebody who just probably got out of a chair, walked by, and happened to just turn over, and maybe the people who took the photo didn't realize the guy walked behind it, and when they developed it, like, oh my god, he's behind it, didn't realize some guy was just walking by and just happened to look at the right time.
I think I'm leaning toward Jeffrey on this one, or maybe a combination of the two, in that an image previously stored on old film deteriorating onto it in a way that it reproduced. In addition, it does look a little bit more like a toy than a person.
Maybe it's Max Headroom, Zero.
Early Max Headroom. That was his generation.
Analog Max Headroom.
Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. Grandma does not look too happy there. So, hey, before we go, I got one more for you. And this is probably one of the most easily disproven one. This is the unexpected guest. And this one I kind of doubt the veracity of, but it's one of the more disturbing photos. And again, it's more about the why than the how. This one was taken in the 50s, and it was some folks having like a little birthday party or something. They developed the photos later, and WTF is that? Tell us, C. Michael Lanning.
I actually heard this, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they actually proved that this was a hoax on this one, and it was like real early on hoax, if I'm not mistaken, because it's circulated around for a long time. But I think there's a couple other photos that are similar to this that people were playing around with, film and things of that nature. So yeah, I'm putting somebody's art project on this one.
All right, potentially, like I've seen a couple of errors with retouching fluid. It does look a little bit like it could be that. Let's move it to Aaron Humphreys. Aaron Humphreys, the unexpected guest, real or fake?
The only thing that I say, and this is going to sound weird, I can see this combined as two photos, because it looks like if it's supposed to be a man falling with his arms down, he's either well behind the candles, because if he's on top of the candles aren't flickering, they aren't moving.
Right.
There'd be some sort of wind, some sort of air to flicker those things, but it just looks like they're just lit perfectly. And so that, and also, why is the head solid black?
Right. If you can see the rest of them, why not the head?
Why not the head? I would say, yeah, I would lean more towards people either having fun or maybe some sort of morbid, I don't know, an effigy. Maybe there were like, maybe like John Byrne, they were, burning, what was it? Didn't he burn like a fake of like, who's that editor? It was Jim Shooter, yeah. Maybe it's a Jim Shooter type thing where they got an effigy. It was an effigy party. They're burning this guy and like, hey, kid, I don't know. That's why they open candles.
Okay, I buy that. And again, I'm not a photographer, but I have seen retouching errors on photographs, and it does look a little bit like that. Let's move it over to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, what do you think of the unexpected guest?
Well, again, this one's very evocative, kind of like the staircase one is, because it really lets your imagination run loose, and it's creepy because you can't really see what it is. It's interesting how that same color of blackness that we kind of turn into a head is also behind the candles itself. Like,
Yeah.
see how they each have this halo of darkness?
Yeah.
Like, I you know, I think there's some, again, bad photography happening. Who knows? You know, we kind of forget how much smoke comes off of candles and what that could be adding to some of these effects, like that the black glob. I don't know. But I like this one. It's cool. It's because
Yeah.
it looks at first it take your eye. You're like, you see the arm and or what you think is an arm, but that also could just see like look. I think it's maybe catching smoke. Like his arm, the arm, if you look, matches the actually the pattern of the drapes behind it. It just keeps going up.
Yeah.
Like what looks like maybe pajamas or something. You go, oh wait, those lines continue on up to the top of the curtains. And so maybe it's capturing the flickering of the candles and the shadows and smoke and poor camera lighting and all kind of swirling together to make this kind of, you know, where your brain tries to put it all together into something else.
They must have known he was there, because if, in other words, if you really fell down beside them, they're not reacting at all, which would assume like they saw this after the fact, like they didn't see the person
Supposedly,
there.
and yeah, but all the
Yeah.
ones we picked tonight were supposedly found after the fact.
Okay.
This one is one of the ones I admit that it is one of the coolest ones, and it's one of the more
Yeah.
fun ones. But this one, like I say, I don't know if you guys have ever dropped any kind of, you know, emulsifying fluid or anything on a photo, and it does kind of do that. But the part, it is a little trippy with the buttons, I guess. So you might have me there. Let's give JD the final word on the unexpected ghost. JD.
Yeah, I thought you were saying I don't know if anyone had ever dropped acid because
Yeah.
that's the only way you think this is real. I mean, yeah, this looks like bad development, not necessarily bad photograph. This is poor development in a dark room. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever sat there with a little dish and you're swishing it back and forth, and if you've ever had to do that, but it's very easy to end up with this.
Yeah.
And of course, this was the 50s. By the 1950s, people would have known how to do this.
Right.
When we were talking about 1919, okay, I get it. But
50s,
1950s, yes, people would have known. And you're edging into the years where it would have been cool to have like a ghost type prank.
You know, it's funny. JD's been talking about mushrooms and acid. Like every time we get to the last word of JD, he just be like, "Fuck, dude, that's some wild shit," and then just like that's his last word for everything.
Yeah, I think we learned a little bit about JD tonight.
I know.
Hey, here's
I'm
the
about
funny
this grieving news.
thing. Here's the funniest thing. I don't take drugs. I don't drink alcohol.
Well, maybe that's the problem.
That could be it.
That's the problem.
That's the problem, right?
I'm waiting till my mid to late 70s. That's when I'm gonna start.
Yeah,
It
it doesn't matter.
We've had some
Right.
great answers here, and
Right.
I want to say thanks so much to you guys for sharing
Yeah.
your opinions on these ghost photos. I think that many of them we have debunked here tonight, and they were either photographic production errors or possibly a prank or a hoax, maybe with the exception of the Goddard photo and a little bit the tulip stare photo we didn't quite get nailed down. But largely, ghost photos seem a little bit fake. So I'd like to thank you for sharing your opinions. I thought you had some great takes. And before we go, I'd like to learn a little bit about what you guys are making. I love to meet creators, and I love to hear about the cool stuff that they're creating. So we're going to start with Aaron Humphreys. Most of us know him as the creator of Knocked. I love this book, Aaron. Aaron, tell us who's going to love this book.
Probably anyone in the like Halloween, ghosts, goblins, whatever. It's basically a barbarian character in a Halloween world called Gloom, and each issue is a individual story like Robert E. Howard, and so I just like to draw Halloween stuff. So each one he just kind of battles a Halloween monster, and goes on adventures. Goblins is my 12-issue series. Where basically there's a little page, you go to page 2. The whole thing's done. That's more about these 3 teenage gods who don't want to be gods. They don't want to be, because my question was like, if you're a god, what if you didn't want to be an all-powerful being? And they leave, and the consequences end up like causing a bunch of havoc. And so it's kind of, I deal a little bit of philosophy, like free will versus determinism, stuff like that. And so that's a complete story. And there's a graphic novel of that too on the other page. You can get all 12 issues. The covers are only on the issues, or you can get the graphic novel. So
it's really cool, man. I think you have a terrific art style, and I just every time I see it, I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Aaron, really, man, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh yeah, it was great. It's fun being here.
It's always a pleasure to have you, man. I was really excited when I met Jeff the first time at the I think it was Philly we met.
Baltimore, I think.
Baltimore. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you were the author of Ghost Planet. I'd heard about it. It looks like a terrific book. Can you tell us a little bit more about who will love this book?
Well, horror fans, we say it's co-creator Sean Von Gorman and I, who's having much success with The Pedestrian right now.
Oh, sure. Now I remember. Yeah, I met him in Baltimore too.
Yeah. We say it's an episode of Lost in Space or Star Trek as directed by John Carpenter. There's a lot of body horror. And then as pertains to this show and my position on this show, we tell it's a done in one, 40 pages. So you get a full meal, you get the full ending, you get the full reveal. But it is a ghost story with a biological explanation. So a lot of the trickery and of the book is that it explains the ghosts that you've been seeing throughout. So the whole premise is it's a family of deep space explorers. They have separated from a generational ship. They're trying to find a planet to occupy. They think they found a place where they can live and thrive. Immediately, the sun dies. And then they start to see his apparition on the ship, and they have to figure out what's going on before they die next.
Jeff, this looks terrific, man.
Thank you. And that's a Tess Fowler variant cover. That was our New York Comic-Con cover. We have a Mike Allred variant. I think if you scroll down, you can see some of those variants.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me, here we go. Oh, let's see if I can.
Yeah, so that was our cover A, which is the shot of like the helmet after the sun dies, and there's also a clue on that cover. You can see that was our ash can that Scout released. There's there's an eyeball motif.
Yeah, nice.
Retail.
That's the Allred, isn't it?
Yeah, and colored by Laura Allred. That was very cool for us. And
that's a nice get.
Sean has the original, and then Mike was nice enough to send me a print.
Oh, very cool. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you.
I like that a lot. Let's see who we got next. Okay, now first of all, I'm going to complain about this, and let me tell you why. I'm very upset about the fact that J.D. Calderon always has cooler titles than I do. This is the Oswald Chronicles, When Tender Souls Mourn. I love it already, J.D. Tell us who's going to love it.
Well, anyone who likes fantasy, I feel, it's obviously about the life and stories of Oswald, and he's a mouse. And he's a burgeoning sorcerer who lives on 54th Street and Park Avenue, New York City. And he is the nexus point between magic and reality. So, you have the two worlds of the Fae, and you have people, right? You have men and the normal world. And he's kind of straddles between those two worlds. And in this particular story, he ends up with a Fae on his doorstep who presents herself as a young lady, and he takes her in, but he's warned by his friends that there's a certain amount of danger attached to this person. But he befriends her anyway. And it's a decision that he's made, and he's stuck with the conundrum of, I met someone, I like someone, you understand, but they're bad for me, right? And what do I do, right? But I like them anyway. And ultimately, it's his friends that make that decision for him, and it's a pretty tough decision. So, yeah,
it's beautiful, buddy.
Thank you. This was illustrated by Aurelio Tillis. He's I have two artists that work on the series. One was Jade Gonzalez. She works on a lot of the main stuff. But this is Aurelio Tillis. He's the other artist that I work with. So, and he does some great stuff. And this is Oswald. And this character that he runs into, Lydia, she's a shapeshifter. So she turns into this other mouse, which at this point in his life, he's never met another mouse who could talk, right? So he realizes how alone he is in the world, because he is by himself. He's unique in that regard. There are the mice, but they're not sentient.
It's good stuff, man. And that's on pre-launch right now, yes?
That is on pre-launch. Yes, it is.
Go over to Kickstarter, give it a follow, call to action. For the viewers, thanks so much to the people that have been watching and for following these creators who've done these terrific works. I hope you can feel confident enough to go over and back these projects with confidence. To my guest tonight, I'd like to say thank you for appearing on the second episode of The Haunted Basement. My quick takeaway, I think we proved tonight that ghost photos are a hoax. Are we all comfortable saying that?
No, not at all.
Yeah, there was a couple ringers in there.
Because that's saying you've got what you showed 5 photos out of 1,000 that are out there. That's kind of a small percentage of that.
Well, we can tackle it next month.
Yeah, see, I got a bridge. I got a bridge out here in New York. I want to sell you, bro.
Hey, before we go, let's take a quick.
Well, you can start with the presupposition, regardless of whether you believe something or you don't believe something. And if you don't believe something, that's what you're going to base your opinion on. If you do believe something, that's what you're going to base your opinion on. It's a presupposition. So that's just that kind of goes.
I thought that you guys gave terrific answers to these questions. I really want to say thanks for coming on the show. Before we spin out of here, let's take a quick go around the room and tell us where we can follow you on social media. See Michael Lanning, start with you.
As always, you can check me out at landingart.com, where you find all the things that my Facebook, whatever else over there. So
thanks for coming, C. Seriously.
Oh, always.
Aaron Humphreys, tell us where we can find you, buddy.
Facebook, Instagram, Humphreys Illustration, or just Aaron Humphreys. You can find my name on there. I do post on both of them, Aaron Humphreys, and I think I thought I had a tag ALH3810, which is my internet email tag. My Facebook, I don't think is on that, but my Instagram was for a while. Now it's Humphreys Illustration. That's pretty much where I hang. I know a lot of people jump to different social media platforms. I think I'm just like, I'm too old and tired to do that. I'll just stick with the old ones.
Well, let's hear. Thanks for coming on the show, Aaron. It means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Jeffrey Barant, man, it was so great to have you. Tell the viewers where we can find you.
You know what? Throw my name here into a search engine. My handle is often because I was in a rock band here in New York City for 15 years, and so I was Jeff UK because we were the Americans UK. And so that's my handle. That's my handle on a lot of social media, but you can get to it all just searching Jeffrey Burant. I'll pop up. My website is jeffwrights.com.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey, and JD, man, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for jumping in at the last minute. I appreciate that. Once more, tell us where we can find you.
Anytime. You find me on the OswaldChronicles.com, TallTalesOnline.com, currently on Kickstarter with Tall Tales, Tears of the Mother. And this Sunday night, I will be on with a bunch of fantastic guests, and we'll be discussing comics on my YouTube channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So
excellent. Hey, thanks to the viewers for watching. Thanks for the comments. I hope you guys had a good time. We'll be seeing you next week in the same time slot for the next episode of The Creative Cranium. Good night, everybody.
Good night.